just let yourself settle and arrive. So it sounds like everyone's mum here, but I am hoping as we go into the winter, people are allowing themselves to have the heating on for yoga. So I won't say it every week, but it is, yeah, it is important to make sure that you're warm enough. And it's part of the reason I've been starting a lot of classes not lying down. So settle on your back. And so you can lie however you like to start with, either with your knees bent or with your legs long. And maybe just have a couple of big sighing breaths, so that just that feeling that got through Thursday, got through most of the week, the weekend's in sight. You're here on your mat. And then the first thing I'd like you to do is to let your head roll to the right and to the left. So very much just easing your head from side to side, not pushing it in any way. Just, yeah, very lazy, very easy, letting your head roll to the right and to the left. And as you do so, you can just start to notice, how does your neck feel? How do your shoulders feel? How does your upper back feel? So this whole upper part of the body. And if you're working from home, doing a lot of computer work, we can obviously get quite stiff here. So let your head settle down so you find a comfortable place, center of the back of your head on the floor. And then if your legs are long, bend your knees now and stand your feet on the floor. And then start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. So this just easy movement of rocking your knees from side to side, feeling the weight shift from side to side across the soles of your feet, across the back of your pelvis. And again, keeping it easy. Good. So it's not the point now to push anything, just a couple more times. Let your knees tilt to the right and to the left, but you don't have to go very far. So if you do this movement and it feels not great around your pelvis or lower back, just do less. So maybe once, twice more in each direction. And then you're going to pause in the middle and you're going to fold your knees into your chest and then hold around your knees. And here you could do a little bit of that. Sit very nice, Nicola, a little bit of rocking side to side, circling around the back of your pelvis. And what I thought we would do here is we're going to use our buzzing breath. And it's not so much fun on our own, but it's still really nice. We're going to do it 3 times. As we make a buzzing sound, we're going to take our arms and legs up towards the ceiling. We can shake them out. And then in between each buzz, we can gather the knees back in towards ourselves. So let a breath come in. And then as you exhale, arms and legs to the ceiling. At the end of that buzz, fold back in, arms around your knees. Let a breath come in. We'll do that twice more. Arms and legs back up to the ceiling. And last time, folding your knees in towards you. Let a breath come in. And then arms and legs up, have a good shake out, have a buzz. Good. And then yes, from here you can fold your knees back in towards your chest. And then when you're ready, you're going to lengthen your legs out on the ground. And just lie long for a moment. Now from here, we're going to roll over onto our belly. So you can have another breath or two lying on your back. And then when you're ready, disturbing yourself as little as possible. Roll over onto your belly. And see how it feels to settle on your belly lying down. And then once you're on your belly, give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. So yeah, to help yourself feel comfortable, wiggle your pelvis. And then yes, we are going to do that one, whoever brought their knees up towards the ceiling. So have a little bit of a wiggle of your pelvis. And then if you like the one, which I think that was you, Nicola. So one we do quite a lot, which is what you were doing, was to bend your knees, take the soles of your feet towards the ceiling, and then to tilt your feet from side to side. So if that's comfortable, if you don't like that in your, if it doesn't feel good in your lower back, don't do it. I'm seeing lots of nice socks. So, which is great. It's great to, yeah, to obviously keep socks on when we're not in standing or dog pose. Good. And then you can bring your legs, lower legs back to the floor for a moment. Just see how it feels to have another cycle of breath on your belly. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then from here, you're going to fold into child pose. Unless for any reason you're happier on your belly in child pose, if there's any knee problems going on. Otherwise, fold into child pose. That's very nice. Have a few breaths in child pose. Good. Lovely. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then from child pose, you maybe have another cycle of breath there. From child pose, we're going to come onto hands and knees. And on hands and knees, I'm just thinking at this point, I think if you've got socks on, you probably want to take them off because we're actually doing a little bit of work with our feet now. So come onto hands and knees, lengthen each leg out behind you. So when you've taken your socks off, you're going to lengthen each leg out behind you. I was trying to wear colourful leggings this evening because I worry it's a bit dark. I was fading into the darkness. So yeah, so one at a time, lengthen your leg out behind you, tuck your toes under, let the back of the knees open. And once you've done that on both sides, so you've taken your socks off, you've lengthened each leg out behind you, what I'd like you to do is tuck your toes under in both sets of feet and do a little bit of rocking on hands and knees. So you're on hands and knees with your toes tucked under and you're rocking your hips back over your heels and then you're coming forwards a little bit, bringing your shoulders back over your hands. And then next time you rock your hips back over your heels, walk your hands in to your knees and then let your knees come up off the floor. So you're up here on the balls of your feet and you might like to lengthen your toes out, spread your toes out a little bit with your fingers. You don't have to, but if you like. And the other thing you can do here is a little bit of rocking. So rocking your knees down towards the floor and then back up again. You can use your fingertips on the floor. You can have your knuckles on the floor, flats of your hands. And then I'm afraid we're going to come into our lovely kneeling foot stretch where we let our knees come all the way down. And you'll be thrilled, Nicola, to be back to doing these ones. We sit back over our heels. We let our shoulders drop and that's it. Just a breath or two here. And then, yeah, before it all gets too much, come forwards onto hands and knees, untuck your toes, drum your feet on the floor. We are going to do this again, okay? You'll be really pleased. So before we do so, lengthen each leg out behind you. So we're going to repeat that whole little sequence. So lengthen each leg out behind you. And then hands and knees, tucking the toes under. Coming back to a little bit and seeing how it feels to rock forwards and back now. So you've got your hands and knees on the floor, your toes tucked. How does it feel having done that kneeling foot stretch once? For me, it feels a bit more that I'm really moving into the sort of tight places in my feet. Walk your hands into your knees, pick your knees up off the floor, and then do a little bit of rocking here. That's it. So letting knees, yeah, just rocking a little bit on the balls of your feet. Again, if you feel you need to spread your toes out, you can do that. And then, I'm sure you're desperate to do it. That's it. Coming down into your kneeling foot stretch. Let your knees come to the floor. Sit back over your heels. Drop your shoulders down. Smile. Enjoy it. And then we'll come out again. We'll come forwards. We'll untuck our toes. We'll drum our feet on the floor. And again, lengthen each leg out behind you. So all these movements are so good for the knees, this sort of bending and then straightening the legs. Good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come into dog pose, and we're going to take that dog pose up into standing and do some things in standing. So hands and knees, tuck your toes under. Nice big handprints on the floor. Have your hands quite wide apart for dog, might be nice, particularly if your shoulders are tight. And then as you exhale, rock your hips back over your heels. Pick your knees up off the floor. Come into dog pose and see how it feels. Good. That's it. Letting your head go. Good. Breathing. Releasing. Very nice. Lovely. And we will be coming back into dog pose. So if it doesn't feel the most amazing dog pose ever, don't worry. Have another breath or two there. And then when you're ready, you're going to walk your hands in towards your feet. Come into a forward bend. And see how it feels to be in a forward bend with all of your weight in your feet. Now, if your lower back needs some support, bend your knees, rest your elbows on your thighs if it feels that your lower back's pulling a little bit. And we'll roll up into standing from here. So if your lower back needs support, walk your hands up your thighs. Otherwise, you can let your arms hang and you can roll up into standing, letting your head come last. And yes, just a little. Maybe just a little shake out and then settling. We're going to move, but I just want you to first feel yourself. So what's it like to come into standing, to look at your feet? Your feet are a little distance apart. You could then maybe close your eyes, let your arms hang. Maybe just sway a little bit from side to side. Yes, we're going to do that one in a moment, Nicola, actually, swing our arms. So just a little bit of small movements, but just trying to feel yourself in standing. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Good. And then, yes, start this one, the swinging one. So we're swinging our arms. That's it, let everything move. Let your feet move. You can slap your arms onto your body. Good. Just this feeling of the whole of yourself in movement. And I think this lovely movement comes from, well, it's probably something we do naturally, but it's in one of my yoga books, Yoga Through the Seasons, and it's a winter thing. So it's a very good thing to warm us up and get everything moving. So a couple more times. Good. I'm just checking what we're doing next because I'm trying to be very organised at the moment and plan my classes well in advance, so I have plenty of time to rest. So a couple more times, swinging your arms. And then letting that go. And let a breath come in. And as you exhale, you're going to swing your arms up. And then you're just going to do a bit of that reaching. So reaching up into one arm. And as you reach into your arm, shift your weight into that foot. So the reaching arm leg, you shift your weight there. So we can reach, and then we can also, stay where you are, I'm just going to, so my hands show. You can reach and then you can catch one hand around the other wrist and sort of draw yourself up and over. So we're just looking for this feeling of length through the side of our body. Let ourselves be long through one side, come back to the center, swap your hands over. Oh, lengthen through the other side. And then release your arms, come all the way down in a forward bend. Bending your knees as much as you like. Again, if your lower back needs support, rest your elbows on your thighs. Let your head go. Have a breath or two there. And then let a breath come in. And as you exhale, sink down into your heels and roll back up into standing. And we're going to do a couple of simple balancing things. Then we're going to do a bit of a sequence which takes us down to the ground. And then we're going to develop things a little bit more. So we're going to do a really simple balance first of all. What I'd like you to do first of all is to settle your feet down, have a look at them, and then close your eyes, come back to swaying from side to side, and just choose which foot you'd like to stand on first. So which foot do you feel more drawn to standing on? And then you're going to open your eyes. You're going to start to shift your weight onto that foot. And all we're going to do with the other foot is bring it to stand on your standing foot. Yeah? So you're bringing your other foot to stand on your standing foot. And then you're bringing your hands into prayer pose in front of your chest. And just see how it feels to settle here. Letting your shoulders drop. Good. Very nice. So how does it feel to be in this simple balance, but if like me, it might still make you feel a bit wobbly. It's fine if you have a little wobble and then come back in. There's maybe 2 or 3 more cycles of breath. Good. Come down, have a little shake out, and we do exactly the same thing on the other side. So again, if it's helpful to look down at your feet and then start to shift your weight onto that second leg. So you might come up onto the ball of the other foot. You might find a point to focus your gaze on. That can be really helpful. Soft gaze. And then bringing it again, bring the hands into prayer pose. So we can just then let everything soften, let the shoulders soften. Maybe we can, if our thumbs are resting on our breastbone, we might feel the movement of our breath in our body. Good. Another breath or two. And then come down, have a little shake out. So we're going to do another simple balance, but it's going to be with our knees bent. So this is like the sort of the bottom half of our eagle balance. And so you're going to have both feet hip, a little distance apart, and then you're going to bend your knees and let your tailbone drop. And come back, you're going to stand on the first foot you stood on, and we're just going to cross the other leg over that leg and see how it feels to stand balance on a bent knee. Now, you want to let your tailbone drop as much as possible and feel quiet in the front of the belly. Again, you could bring your hands into prayer pose. Let the shoulders drop. It's quite easy in this one to sort of be leaning forwards with the shoulders, so try not to, if possible. Try to feel your shoulders are over your hips and your hip is over your heel. Now, like me, you might find when you're balancing with a bent knee, you can't stay there so long. So come down and have a little shake out. What I'd like you to do with the leg that you just stood on, before we do the other side, is slide that foot back behind you. So this is the foot you just stood on. You're sliding back behind you and you're flipping onto the top of your toes. So we're just stretching out the front of the ankle, because when we bend the knees, we also, that front of the ankle has to bend as well. Okay. And let's try the other side now. So come back, look down at your feet, bend both knees. Sometimes it's easier when we're balancing with bent knees to have our gaze looking down a bit more when we're balancing. So cross the other leg over now. And yeah, so I'm sort of looking down maybe a couple of meters ahead of myself. And that seems to help my knees feel a bit happier. Hands in prayer pose, good. See if we can let the belly fall back. Can we have our shoulders over our hips rather than leaning forwards too much? Can we let the tailbone drop? Oh, it's hard work for the muscles around the ankle and the pelvis. So come out, have a little shake out. We're going to come back to that balance later on when we've done some other things first. And do the same thing. So that foot you just stood on, slide it back behind you, flip onto the top of the toes. So you're stretching, that's at the front of the ankle, which will hopefully feel quite nice. Good. Okay, have a little shake out. We're going to come now to our little sequence, which is going to take us down onto the ground. So I'm just checking. Oh, so we're going to be going to, from the back of your mat. We're going to be going down through a forward bend and then a squat rather than dog pose. We quite often go through dog pose. So down through a forward bend, squat. Doesn't matter if your heels come up, but if you want to have something to put under your heels, you can do. So at the back of your mat, bring your hands into prayer pose. And then from squat, we'll be going forwards onto hands and knees. So let a breath come in. As you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Drop your shoulders away from your ears. Let a breath come in. And then roll down into your forward bend. And give yourself a breath or two in your forward bend. And then from your forward bend, how does it feel to start to bend your knees? So you're dropping down into a squat. Don't worry if your heels come up, that's fine. We're not going to stay here long. We're going to move through our squat. So you're rolling through the tops of your feet and coming onto hands and knees. And then once you arrive on hands and knees, lengthen each leg out behind you, like we did earlier, tucking your toes under. And then settle on hands and knees and come to some cat movements. So come to rounding your back to the ceiling, dipping your spine down to the floor. And doing this a few times, and just keeping it comfortable, keeping it easy, rounding your back to the ceiling, letting your head hang. Seeing how it feels to dip your spine down to the floor. Breathing however you want to. There's no right or wrong way to breathe here. Just let your breath flow through you. And then from here, what I'd like you to do is take your hands a little bit further forwards on your mat. So they're a little bit further forwards of your, they're not below your shoulders, they're further forwards. And then just quite easily, just how does it feel to rock your pelvis forward? So you're heading towards face up dog, but you're not pushing it. You're keeping it quite easy. Unless, I mean, if it feels very easy to let your pelvis come forwards, then it's absolutely fine. Maybe once more. And then we're going to rock back. We're going to tuck our toes under and we're going to rock into dog pose. And if you feel that your hands and feet are too far apart, if you kept them in the same place as face up dog, you can always narrow the distance between your hands and your feet, if you like. And have a few breaths in your dog pose. Good. Bending your knees as much as you like, that's good, that's lovely. Walking on the spot. And from dog pose, you can, whenever you want to, fold down into child pose and have a couple of quiet breaths in child pose. So I think all of you are happy in child, but I always give the options. If child pose isn't good for you, for your knees, you can lie on your belly, or if you don't like having your head down, you can sit in kneeling. And so sometimes, you know, it might be on a particular evening, one of these other options is better. If you're in child pose, really see, can you let your shoulders soften and release? That's it. Good, Maria. Well done. Have one more cycle of breath in child pose. So receiving your inhalation, letting your exhalation leave. And then once again, you're going to come onto hands and knees and lengthen each leg out behind you in turn. Now, what I'd like you to do when you've done that is settle, and you might, if when you were doing that, your foot came off the back of your mat, move forwards a little bit, because we're going to come into plank pose now. So you want to make sure your shoulders are over your wrists, and when you lengthen your legs back, your feet are not coming off your mat. And then see, how does it feel to come into plank pose? And how does it feel to have a few breaths in plank pose? And this is one of the things I've been doing. Part of my rehabilitation is a plank pose and staying in it. Not ridiculously long, but just seeing how it feels. So see if you can have another breath or two there. And then when it all gets too much, let your knees come down. Walk your hands back in towards your knees. Let your knees come off the floor so you're up on the balls of your feet. And then once again, we're going to let our heels come down. We're going to send our sit bones up. So we come back into a forward bend. Let your head go. Now in your forward bend, touch the backs of your hands together. Let a breath come in. And as you exhale, roll up into standing, taking your arms straight up towards the ceiling. Breathe in, take the arms wide, and then as you exhale, arms down in a big circle, all the way down and back into prayer pose. So we're going to go down and do that sequence one more time. So just settle your feet, hands in prayer pose, let a breath come in. So as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Let a breath come in, drop your shoulders away from your ears, and then exhale down into your forward bend. And then remember, from the forward bend, we're going down through our squat again. So again, if you want to put something under your heels, you can do, but you can also just let the heels come up if they need to. And then we'll roll forwards, bring your hands onto the floor so you can roll forwards onto hands and knees. And then lengthen each leg out behind you. And then we're coming back to cat again. So some more cat movements on hands and knees, rounding the back. Dipping the spine down to the floor. Seeing how it feels. Letting your breath flow as it wants to. You round your back, really let your head hang. And you dip your spine. Make sure it feels comfortable. You're not going too far. You're just doing what feels right for your body just now. So perhaps 2 or 3 more times. Rounding and dipping in cat. And then again from here, we're going to see how does it feel to travel forwards into face-up dog. And again, we don't have to sort of push this face-up dog. So we take our hands a little bit further forwards. We see how does it feel to let the pelvis rock forwards. Now, you can always, if you prefer, do the sort of cat way into face-up dog. So by tucking your toes under, rounding your back to the ceiling, rocking your hips back over your heels. And then as you exhale, travel forwards into your face-up dog, rounding your back. See how that feels. You could try that one again. So you could rock back, tuck your toes under, round your back, all the way back. Let a breath come in, and then as you exhale, travel forwards, watching your pelvis travel forwards, all the way into face up dog. And then we're going to move into dog pose. So you could go straight from face up dog if that works from you, or go back onto hands and knees. Tucking your toes under, moving the other way. If it feels a bit too long, you can step your feet in, and then bending your knees as you like. So again, stay in dog pose as long as you like. Whenever you need to rest your hands, your wrists, you fold into child pose. When we're in dog pose, it's really helpful to breathe out through the mouth. Really let your head go. Good. Good, good, good. Lovely. And then whenever you want to, down into child pose, couple of quiet breaths. And in this child pose, we'll have a few breaths here. Have the focus. So when you exhale, imagine your exhalation is leaving from the base of your skull, traveling down your neck, along your shoulders, along your arms, and out through your palms and your fingertips. So you receive an inhalation, and each time you exhale, you imagine these sort of softening, undoing qualities of the out-breath traveling all the way down your neck, your shoulders, your arms, out through the hands and the fingers. And then once more, we'll come back onto hands and knees. We'll lengthen each leg out behind us. And as we do so, we'll make sure there's enough mat behind us because we're going to another plank pose. So as you're organising yourself for plank, hands under, wrists under your shoulders, lengthening one leg back, lengthening the other leg back. Good. And we know when we're in that long length of plank because we feel our abdominals kick in. So when we're in plank and our pelvis is neither going up or down, we know that because we feel it in our abdominals. Good. So if you've just gone into plank, you might have another couple of breaths there. If you've been there a little while like me, you might want to come down, let your knees come onto the floor, and then walk your hands back into your knees. And then let your knees come off the floor. So we're back on this sort of balls of the feet position. Nice plank, Nicola, well done. So we're rocking on the balls of our feet, and then we'll be taking this into a forward bend and then rolling up into standing. So whenever you're ready, you can send fingertips on the floor, you can send your heels down to the ground, your sit bones up. In your forward bend, touch the backs of your hands together. Receive an inhalation as you exhale, rolling up into standing. Your hands trail up the front of your body, all the way up to the ceiling. Breathe in, take the arms wide, exhale a big circle with your arms all the way around and back into your prayer pose. And then just shake out. Come to the centres of your mat again. Just like we did before, take a moment to arrive in standing. Yes, a moment to have a drink of water is a good idea. And just settle. Exhalation. So we're going to come back to our little swinging twists, swinging the arms, letting the body come along. And then in a moment, we're going to revisit our eagle balance, adding the arms in this time. In fact, we're going to start with the arms because I think it's a bit easier. So a couple more times, swinging the arms, slapping onto your body. Okay. So let's let this go, and then let's settle in standing. And just come to swinging your arms so they cross in front of your body. That's quite nice. And what you're going to do, and I think if we Yes, if we all give ourselves a hug from here with the right arm on top. So if I say which arm, then you won't need to worry about which arm we're doing first. So the right arm on top, let your shoulders drop, and then you're going to come on into your eagle arms. So you all know, wrapping your arms around each other. And then once we've done that, you're going to bend your knees, drop your tailbone. We're going to go on into the balance. So we're going to be standing on our right foot now. So it means we have the opposite leg on top to arm. So see how it feels to cross your left leg over your right. Your right knee is bent. Can you drop your shoulders? Can you drop your tailbone? Can you breathe? Can you feel the belly emptying? The shoulders over the hips over the heels. Maybe one more cycle of breath. Good. And then release, shake out. Arms and legs. Good. Now just come back, before we do the other side, come back into standing for a moment. Come back into standing. Maybe close your eyes. Feel yourself. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your arms hanging. See if you can feel the movement of a breath through you. And then open your eyes again and come to swinging your arms, crossing them in front of your body. So this time we'll cross the left arm in front. So we'll give ourselves a hug with the left arm in front. Welcome back, Jan. Give yourself a hug with the left arm in front, and then bringing your arms on into your eagle arms. Welcome back, Jan. And then, like we did on the other side, bending your knees, and we're trying to drop the tailbone. We're going to be bringing our weight onto our left foot, crossing the right leg over the left. If you feel unsteady, you can always have your big toe on the ground, the top leg, big toe. And just see if you can have a few breaths here. Tailbone dropping, belly emptying, breathing, dropping the shoulders. Good. And then come out and have a shake out. And then again, let's just do that one we did earlier where we came onto the top of one at a time, each set of toes, because I just think this feels quite nice after this one, to stretch out the front of the ankles. So do that on both feet. Good. And then just a couple of times, come back to this loose swinging twist. I want us to think about some twists now. So this is where we're letting the whole of our body move. But most of the time in yoga, when we're doing twists, we're keeping part of ourselves fixed, quite often the pelvis and the legs. So now, let that go, settle in standing. See if you can keep your pelvis steady. Bring your hands onto your ribs, and can you turn? That's it. Can you turn a little bit to the right and to the left? So the ribs are turning, the shoulders are turning, the head, the arms. You can try with your hands on your shoulders. So again, I'm trying to not move my pelvis. It's not always that easy. It might be easier. It might be easier with the fingertips on the crown of the head. Okay. Good. Let that go. Just come back to a couple of ones where everything's moving. So we're going to do another little sequence. This time it's going to be a sequence which brings us into a lunge and then a couple of lunge twists. So we're going to be starting at the front of our mats. So it's like the beginning of sun salute. but we only do the lunge bit. So what we'll do is we'll go down into a forward bend, and then we'll do a lunge on each side, and then we'll come back up into standing. And then we'll do some lunge variations. So at the front of your mat, hands in prayer pose. So you need mat behind you to step back into a lunge. So hands in prayer pose. Let a breath come in. As you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Drop your shoulders away from your ears. And as you exhale down into your forward bend, and you're going to say, let's step the right foot back into lunge. It's probably easier if we all do the same foot. So all we're doing this first time is a normal lunge. We're not doing anything fancy. We're just coming into the lunge. Back toe can be tucked under, back toe can be flat. Front knee over the front heel, giving the pelvis to the ground. Hands however you like. Breathing. Couple more breaths here. So we're really feeling that opening through the front of the back leg thigh. Now, from here, we're going to step back into a forward bend, and then we're going to step the left foot back into lunge. So as you exhale, step back into your forward bend, let your head go, and then step into a lunge on the other side, and have a few breaths there. Again, back toes can be tucked under or flat. We're just looking for that delightful lunge feeling of really opening through the front of the back leg thigh. Now this time when we come back into a forward bend, we're going to roll up into standing, touching the backs of our hands together. So we can exhale, we can put our weight into our front foot, press off a bit with the back leg, come into your forward bend, let your head go. Touch the backs of your hands together and then roll up into standing, trailing your hands up the front of your body, straight up to the ceiling. Breathe in, exhale, arms come out in a big circle. Good, all the way back into prayer pose. Lovely. And then again, we'll go back down for a couple more lunges. So let a breath come in as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Let the breath come in, exhaling back into your forward bend. And we're going to be stepping the right foot back again. I'm just turning around, so no, I won't turn around. I don't want to be turning away from you. Because this time in our lunge, we're going to see how it feels to turn towards our front leg. Yeah? So we're not doing, again, not doing anything very fancy. It doesn't matter how we support ourselves. It's quite helpful at this point just to see, can you bring your palm, it would be your right palm, can you bring that palm flat onto the floor? You don't have to for this twist, but in a moment, if you can't bring your palm flat on the floor, it might be helpful to have a book under it. So just turning towards that front leg. Let's come back into our forward bend and try the other side. So step your back foot forwards. Back into your forward bend, let your head go. I will turn around this time, and then step your left foot back. So we're in our lunge, and we're seeing how it feels to turn towards our front leg. The front hand, the left hand, could be flat, we could be on our fingertips, we could be on our knuckles. The right hand's on the back of our pelvis. And again, you know, when we come to do the final lunge twist, if your hand doesn't go flat on the floor now, you might want to think about a book or a block under it. So untwist, you're going to exhale, you're going to step forwards into your forward bend, let your head go, touch the backs of your hands together, let a breath come in as you exhale, roll up into standing, hands up the front of your body, breathe in. Exhale, arms out in a big circle. Good. So one last time we're going to do this sequence, and this time we're going to go a bit further with that lunge twist. So if you did want a book or a block to go under your hands, then grab something now and then bring your hands into prayer pose. So again, at the front of your mat, let a breath come in. As you exhale, take your arms down and then up, long and tall, let your breath come in, and then exhaling, rolling down into your forward bend. And when you're in your forward bend, again, the right foot will step back first. So this time in our lunge twist, we want to plant the right hand on the floor where our left foot would be in standing. Again, we turn towards the left leg, the front leg, and then we let our back knee come off the ground. We tuck our toes under. You'll have to tuck your toes under to get back knee off the ground. And then you reach forwards. You maintain your twist. You're still turning your rib cage towards that front leg, but you're reaching forwards with your left arm, reaching into your fingertips and your heel. Good. It's quite a strong stretch through the thighs and the groin, and then untwisting. Back into a normal twist and then stepping into a forward bend. Good. And then we're going to step straight through to the other side, stepping the left foot back. So back into our second side of our lunge twist. Again, this time your left hand wants to plant on the floor where your foot would be if you were in standing. We can start by turning towards that front leg, and then toes tucked under, we let that back knee come off the ground. Really stretch the heel away. And then still keeping our rib cage turned towards our front leg, we reach forwards with the right fingers. So there's this long diagonal line from the fingers through to the back heel. And breathing. Good. And then coming down, back into our normal lunge, back into a forward bend. Now this time when we roll up into standing, if you want to go all the way into a standing back arch, you could do. So you could exhale, roll up into standing, trailing your hands up the front of your body, but you could not just stop in standing, you could let your pelvis come forwards and your gaze come up. Good. And then have a bit of a shake out. Lovely. Well done. After that, you're going to now, one last time, one last forward bend, dog pose, child pose. Okay. So we just do this very quietly. I think just very quietly rolling into a forward bend and then walking your hands on into dog pose and see how that feels. And it really depends how your dog pose feels. You can stay in dog, or you can move on to having a little breather, little rest, which will be in child pose, kneeling, or lying on your belly. So whichever of those three sounds a bit more appealing to you, that's what you're going to do now. Good. Just settling down for a couple of quiet breaths. So we've got one more, after this, one more little lively thing, which will then take us into lying down again and relaxing. Just maybe another breath or two in your resting position, feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. Then from child pose, if that's where you are, you're going to bring yourself over into sitting. And first of all, you could just lean back and lengthen your legs out and give your legs a little bit of a roll. And then everyone's favourite, we're going to, from here, we'll probably move forwards a little bit. So this was probably one of the last things I came back to in my yoga practice after not being well, was our lovely rolling down and using our abdominals, because it is actually quite hard work. So we'll do this and then it will be a chance to have a little rest. So start off easy. We're thinking about being rounded. What I'd like you to do to start with is just looking down, sliding your hands from your feet to your knees and leaning back. And just do that. So keeping your feet on the floor. So we're trying to let our back be really rounded. So it's really important to look down at your belly, even if it's not the most pleasant of sights, but you want to be looking at your belly so your back is rounding out. We'll do that maybe once or twice more. So sort of two things going on, as you know, in this movement. One is about the abdominals as we go into a bit further. The other one is really about letting our spine come into this curve, this forwards curve. Now, let's try again, but as we roll back, let's let our feet come up. And then let's look forwards to come back up again. So we roll back, letting the feet come up, looking down at the belly. And then to come forwards again, we look forwards. And we might have to use a bit of momentum, yeah? So going back, coming forwards. Good. Going back down. When we go back down, we're trying to balance. So if you're not quite sure, what we're trying to do is balance on this bit of our back between the ribs and the pelvis, ideally, yeah? We might go a bit lower than that, but ideally we're trying to go back, control the movement, and find this sort of point of balance on the middle of our back. And then we would lengthen the legs out. Oh. So that is when it gets a bit more abdominal, when we try and lengthen the legs out in this long, low boat shape. So that's it, well done, good. So the challenge, as we all know with this one, the challenge is not to go too low, not to let too much of your rib cage come onto the floor. We're going to try this 3 times. So one last time. From this one, you get to lie down. So one last time, rolling back. Rolling back. Letting the feet and legs come up. Seeing how we can balance. Oh. And then lying down. And just, yes, collapsing onto the floor. So it's not quite time to go to sleep just yet. We will do some sort of, a few simpler things lying down. So just, yeah, quite nice to bring your hands now onto your belly and feel how the belly is soft and relaxed. It's no longer working as it was. Yes, you can definitely put socks on now if you want to, if you haven't. Good. Yes, socks on. I'm going to do a few movements, so if you can bear not to put your blanket on for another few minutes, that would be great. Or you can always do little movements under your blanket. That's better than getting cold. So the first thing, once you've got your socks on and you're settled down, the first movement I'd like you to do is to let your head roll from side to side again. Easing the head from side to side. So as we all know, in that last one, the muscles in the front of the neck are also working, so the head doesn't flop back. Now we can just really let those muscles soften. We can let the head ease from side to side. And then settling the head down in a comfortable position. Center of the back of the head on the floor. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. If your legs are long, you're going to now bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. We're going to do a few things in this position. So first of all, come back to that movement we did right at the beginning of the class, letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And seeing how that feels now. Isn't that lovely? Looks really nice. Keep it easy, keep it comfortable. But it looks freer. Lots of you. That's very nice. So maybe once, twice more, to the left, to the right. And then settle in the center. So knees bent still, feet settled on the ground. And can you then come to tilting your pelvis? So one way you tip your pelvis towards your head, so your lower back flattens out a bit. The other direction, you tip your pelvis away from your head, so your lower back arches away from the floor. You're just rocking your pelvis sort of up and down on the ground, flattening out the lower back, and then letting the lower back arch a little bit more off the ground. So this in itself can feel really nice for the lower back, but what I'd like you to do is in the one where you're flattening out the lower back, you can go a little bit further and you can let the whole of your pelvis come off the ground. And you're going to move up into a couple of easy bridge poses. So sort of up and down in your own time, rolling up and down into bridge. And I always find it, again, it feels very nice after that abdominally boat pose thing, because we feel that the front of the body can open and soften. Lovely. So yes, in your own time, a couple of bridge poses, and you don't need to push it. Just whatever feels good, this feeling of just trying to sort of separate out the vertebrae a little bit. Particularly as we roll back down, can we try to place our vertebrae down one by one? And then let the pelvis really rest down onto the ground. Good. So when you've done a couple of bridge poses, you can then fold your knees into your chest and hold around your knees, hug around your knees. And we're going to revisit our buzzing breath. I thought I'd have a, I'm not sure actually, I don't think I can unmute people actually. So no, ignore that. I was going to try and get us buzzing together, but we'll buzz on our own. So we're going to do exactly what we did at the beginning, 3 times with a buzzing breath. We're going to take the arms and legs up towards the ceiling, give them a shake out, and then fold the knees back in between the buzzes. So let the breath come in, and then arms and legs. Fold your knees back in towards your chest. Let your breath come in. Folding in again. And one last time, let the breath come in and shaking out the limbs and buzzing. Good. And then finally, settling down. So now if you wanted to put a blanket on or dim your lights at all, we're just going to settle down. How are we doing? Yes, we're just going to settle down for a couple of minutes, some quiet breathing. So yes, make sure you're going to be warm and comfortable. You can always, if you like, if you're in a room where there's a bed or a sofa, you can always put your lower legs up on the bed or the sofa. And you settle down either with your knees bent or your legs long, so whichever you prefer, however you feel most comfortable. And your hands could rest on the front of your body, or you could let your arms rest on the floor beside you. So again, whatever works best for you. And if it's helpful to have a big sighing breath or two, then do that. Settling the weight of your body on the ground. And just perhaps starting by gathering your awareness into your breathing. Noticing where in your body you feel your breath the most clearly. So where you feel your breathing, and how does your breath feel? Your breath may feel light and soft or long and deep. And however your breathing is, just allowing it to be exactly as it is right now. Trusting the intelligence of your body to breathe exactly as you need in this moment. And from your breathing, let your awareness expand outward to the rest of your body. Be noticing the points of your body in contact with the ground, the back of your head, the back of your shoulders, your elbows, maybe your hands, depending where they are, back of your rib cage, some of your vertebrae, the heavy weight of your pelvis. And if your legs are long, that whole long length of your legs on the ground, down to your heels. Or if your knees are bent, the feeling of your footprints on the ground. Notice perhaps the air on your skin going outward to the world around, if there's a presence maybe of any animals or other members of your household, the sounds outside, both near and more distant. I'm going to add to the sounds by ringing the singing bowl 3 times. So just stay where you are until you reach the end of those 3 sounds. So thank you, everyone. Take your time to come back round. There's no rush.